Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Introduction to Chicken Keeping. This class is presented by Sprout NOLA in partnership with Recirculating Farms. I will be your host today, Erica Sage Johnson, and also on the line I have Mr. Joe Trombator with Peeps Farm, and Margie is here for technical support.
Hi, everyone. This is Joe Trombator, and I'm an old farmer guy.
Introduction to chicken keeping, a general introduction to the life of a laying hen. We will share information about maintaining and supplying chickens with happy, healthy care. As I said, my name is Erica Sage. I have raised chickens from pullets since 2015. I am currently on my fourth flock of hens. I run a small business called Petite Jardin that offers small quantity but high quality shelf-stable goods and fresh produce. And I'm the market manager for Sprout NOLA. Mr. Joe, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi. Let me see. I'm in my mid-60s, so I'm from a little bit different generation, and I was raised with farm animals of all sorts. Chickens go back to my earliest memories, and I started raising chickens by myself in the early 80s as a hobby and just to collect different breeds and share eggs with everybody I knew. And then after retirement in I guess 8-10 years ago, I wound up with 500 chickens that I now supply New Orleans market area with good, fresh, free-range pasture chickens.
And we are happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
So everybody who is in attendance, before we begin, please get out your pen and paper that you brought to class, and we're going to answer a few questions. Answering these questions will help keep you focused on the reason why you're interested in chicken keeping. What am I doing? Are you raising chickens as pets, for eggs, for meat, or as dual purpose birds? Why am I doing it? Is this a hobby? Do you want to feed your family? Is this going to be a business for you? And what do you expect from chicken keeping? Please take about 5 to 7 minutes to answer these questions for yourself. Animal husbandry is a branch of agriculture concerned with animals raised for meat, eggs, or other products. Much like the term husband in marriage, one should consider chicken keeping a commitment of care to the hens for their natural life. Now let's talk chickens. We are going to bring a chicken out. This chicken here is about 4.5 or 5 years old. Her name is Pretty Lady, and she's going to help us describe the anatomy of a chicken. Hi, Pretty Lady. Stand. You go, miss. Need something? Maybe? So, on a chicken, you have a comb, which is going to be this top red part that you see here. Now, a comb regulates a chicken's body temperature. It can come in many different forms, including a single comb, a rose comb, a pea comb, a cushion comb, like the one that you'll see here on Pretty Lady, strawberry cone, buttercup, or V-shaped. Then, on the chicken, you'll have a beak. The beak is used for the chicken to eat and drink. You'll see the wattle, which is down here below the beak. This also helps with blood circulation and regulating the chicken's body temperature. On chickens, you'll see a spur. this is going, she's probably not the best example for a spur. You actually can't see hers, but in the picture, you can see on the back of the chicken's leg, you'll see an area that's poking out. That is the spur, which chickens use for defense. Most males have a larger spur, and females can grow them as they age and their hormones begin to change. Also, you'll notice on the chicken's claws. These are used for digging for food or water or creating a comfortable nesting space. Thank you, pretty lady, for your time.
Can I add a little interesting tidbit that most
Please.
people don't know about chicken?
Tell us.
On their head, there's a circular tuft of feathers that's usually the color of the chicken, and then there's a background that's either brown or white. If you look at that background, you'll know what color egg that hen lays. Yeah, they call it a hen, but it's not really an egg.
That is a great tip. Thank you, Mr. Joe.
So if you pick up a hen, you'll know what she's putting out.
Mr. Joe, will you tell us the difference between female chicks and male chicks? What are they called?
The females are pullets and the males are cockerels, and they grow at different rates and have different feed requirements as they age. And also the proportion of the meat, if you're looking for meat birds, is different on them.
Let's talk lifespan. An incubation period. I'll show this slide here. For everyone in attendance in this class, just look at your screen, and as you can see, there are 3 proposed days for an incubation, meaning the egg is being warmed until a baby comes out. How many days is the incubation period for a chicken? 15 days, 21 days, or 32 days? Please take a moment and share your guess. "21 days." Now, from a 1-day-old chicken to about a 1-month-old chicken, they are called biddies. This is because they are itty bitty. They are dependent on you for care, for lights to keep them warm, for safety, for water, and safe food access. From about 1 month, and then depending on the breed, 17 to 21 weeks, you will have your chicken is called a chick. Once that chick starts laying around that 17 to 21 weeks, we now consider the bird a laying hen. Once a hen has reached its laying stage, how long does a chicken lay? If you look at your screen again, there's proposed answers: 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. Please take a moment and share your guess.
Pause on that and connect to the speaker so that Mr. Joe is louder.
Yes, what do I do?
You don't have to pause anything. We just edit it later. I was just saying.
Oh, okay.
So connect to this via Bluetooth.
I got to connect you to the Bluetooth so we can hear you better, Mr. Joe.
Okay.
What is? Oh, Mark.
You do know a chicken continually lays until they pass. It just might get down to what they want. It's still, they're always laying.
Yeah. We'll have. I'll ask you for a side note, and then you can share that. Do you have to press something to make it receivable? Oh wait, there you go.
It's receivable. It was just on mine.
There. Mr. Joe, can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Keep talking.
Testing.
There.
Testing 1, 2.
Great. Much better. All right. How long does a chicken lay? 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years? Please share your guesses. A chicken will lay consistently for about 2 years. Mr. Joe, can you tell us a little bit more about a laying hen's lifespan?
Yeah, a hen will start laying normally between 17 and 21 weeks. They get into their prime in about maybe 6, 7 months, and they'll lay consistently for 3.5 years after that. Then the production will decline steadily as they age, but they'll continually lay eggs as long as they live.
Thank you. All right, let's talk eggs. Mr. Joe, what affects egg production for a hen?
If a chicken has all its needs met, it feels secure, it's happy, it's got a loose plate and a net plate, and ample supply of food that's properly mixed. Like if it's eating bugs, it needs bugs and calcium. It needs bits of rocks and whatnot. But if a chicken has all its needs met, is when they lay the best. And it's just like any other animal. A happy animal puts out the best product, and it's just most the main thing to see. Your goal is to make it happen.
What kind of elements does the chicken need in order to lay optimally? As far as daylight?
They need 13 hours of daylight to lay at their best. The chicken takes 25 hours to lay an egg, and so they're laying out an hour later every day, and then when it gets dark, they take a day off. So for them to maintain that schedule, it needs to be 13 hours a day or more.
When a chicken lays an egg, can you tell us what a bloom is?
The bloom is the last secretion that the chicken does as the egg is leaving the vent. It puts a water-soluble coating over the egg that is impenetrable by bacteria and viruses, and it just seals the egg so that chicken has the best chance to survive.
Why are chickens different colors?
So again, I didn't get the last word.
I said, why are chickens different colors, or why are their eggs different colors?
Well, that's hereditary. Different breeds lay different colored eggs, and their feathers and whatnot are just, you got a Rhode Island Red or you got a white Leghorn. The genetics predisposed this to those things. The only egg color I know of that's been altered would be the Aurora Canas that lay the green and the blue eggs, because scientists say several thousand years ago in this closed system there was a virus where the only hens that survived were those that laid green and blue eggs.
Is there a difference in the composition?
Clinically, say again?
Is there a difference in what's inside the egg depending on the outside color?
Basically, yes. Chemically, a lab can sit down and they can pretty much narrow down the breed that it comes from due to the proportions of the makeup of the egg. But as far as you or I go, a brown egg, yellow egg, green egg, if they were all raised in the same system, They're all going to be basically the same.
Can you talk to us about the importance of calcium and how that relates to eggs?
A chicken can only store enough calcium to keep her body going daily. So she needs to acquire calcium every day to put out eggs. So if the hen's putting out 5 to 6 eggs a week, she has to eat a lot of calcium. So in the wild, insects have an external skeleton that is, calcium mostly. And that's where they get them. But in the wild, they're not to put out 6 eggs a week. So we enhance that by giving them everything their body needs to keep producing at optimum levels. It's not hard on the animal. It's what nature allows them to do when things are right. And if they're stressed from not having the proper input, they will cut back on the number of eggs they lay.
And lastly, about eggs, Mr. Joe, can you tell us, how do we tell a rotten egg?
Well, if you suspect an egg to be rotten, you float it. And if it floats to the top, you don't want it. If it even comes off the bottom, you might want to save it for for yourself, cooking, break it into a small container, expect it, visually and knowing it. That's how I do it.
What Mr. Joe described is a process called floating, where you take a cup of water and you place the egg inside the water. As he stated, if the egg floats or begins to float, then the egg has already started its deterioration process and is not considered as good. If the egg stays at the bottom, then you know you have a fresh egg.
Correct. And the amount of freshness is due to the amount of air that's been able to pass through the shell. So an egg that's not good has acquired a large bubble of air. It's going to float all the way to the top. And the egg that's just kind of maybe got a little wet, wasn't picked up right away, it'll float a quarter of the way, halfway up, and you can pretty much tell the freshness of the egg by how it floats.
By where it floats. Good to know. Let's talk about housing for our birds. Water, fresh water, and clean.
Wait. Let me regress a second here.
Go for it.
Floating an egg, something you do right before you eat it, because if you float your egg, the bloom is water soluble, and the egg is pretty much going to degrade rapidly after that. So we need to get that out there. Don't do it and then stick them on the counter and expect them to last.
This is a good, brought up something interesting. If a chicken laid an egg today, how long is that egg good for?
Let me think. I have no issue if the egg's never gotten wet. Keep it on my counter about a month. Back in the day, almost everyone had an egg dispenser where it made a circle, put fresh eggs on the top, you took your eggs out at the bottom. There was no refrigeration until pretty much in the country after World War II. So not refrigerating an egg is not really a new idea that people going through it. Eggs have been designed to last. God do these.
Good to know. Housing for our hens. Fresh water and clean bedding is the cheapest investments to maintain healthy chickens. When you're creating a coop for your chickens, you want to think about security. You need to know your predators in your area. Having a coop that's raised is a good way to protect against predators, ensuring that there are no open areas, that all of the openings are secured closed, that there's no food in your coop, when you're creating a coop, you think from top to bottom. You think about aerial predators or animals that can climb and may be able to get in through the top. And then you also think about animals that may be able to dig their way in. Another step in security for your hens is to lock your chickens in their coop at night. to ensure that no predators can get in with them. Laying boxes. A laying box or a nesting box is usually a soft, secure, clean, and secluded space for a chicken to lay her egg. You need about one laying box for roughly every 6 chickens. Bedding. What is bedding?
Erica, there's something else you need to add about laying box. 'Cause I don't know if we discussed it, but you don't want your laying box where direct sunlight will get in on the hen when she sets. You want it in a shaded area.
Thank you.
They much prefer. They much prefer.
And the eggs will stay more fresh, not being in direct sunlight.
Correct. But you'll find I have a long wall of boxes, and the ones that where the light comes through the door and shines straight on the box, we never find eggs in.
Mm,
So if the chicken doesn't like a box, you won't use it.
that's right. She will find somewhere else to lay if she does not like her box.
That's true.
Bedding. What is bedding for a chicken? Bedding is material placed inside the laying box. You want it to be absorbent. You want it to be low in pathogens. You want it to be easily accessible so the chicken can move things around to her liking. You want it to be cost efficient. Some good examples of bedding are hay, wood chips, shavings, sand, pine wood, leaves, or sawdust. Mr. Joe, can you tell us how you maintain bedding in your coop?
I chose to use wood chips because they're clean. They're usually parasite free. They absorb well enough to when a chicken has an accident and she's laying eggs, they sometimes it'll clump up on it and then you can just scoop it out of there. And it's inexpensive and easy to maintain. That's what I like. But I don't have to. Like it's saying, you pretty much need to clean your box every night. Well, that's fine if you got 5 chickens, but if you're trying to do 500 chickens.
That's a different story for sure. Do you want to talk to us about your deep bedding system in the coops?
Yeah, deep bedding, you're using the natural decomposition to help eliminate the smells, odors, and parasites in the litter under the roof. Chickens will sit on the roof in the same way every night. And so if you keep your bedding stirred up under that roof, it'll build up. And as it builds up, I like to disperse some diatomaceous earth, which it kills any external insects. That will even kill some that aren't, so it's just clay. But I mix some of that into the bedding and let it build up. Well, I muck out my coop twice. In a shallow method, you'd be mucking out your coop once a month, or even with sand, you have to rake it every day. So it's the level of work for the return. You have to choose on your system when you're sending stuff.
And Mr. Joe is talking to us from a point of view where he has 500 chickens. If you are raising chickens in your backyard and you have 1 to 12 chickens, then like he said, you changing out your bedding is going to be more frequent because of space and sanitation. Mr. Joe, what do you do with chicken poop?
I like to stack it up and let it age. And then I use it in my garden, around my fruit trees, and generally in my pasture. It helps create a thicker, better pasture for the animals. And there's an ample supply of it.
Mr. Joe he talked about letting his chicken poop sit because chicken poop is considered hot. It is high in nitrogen, and direct contact with the chicken poop, if you were to just scoop the poop out of the coop and place it on your plants because you've heard that it was a good fertilizer, you will surely kill your plants because of the high nitrogen level. Allowing that poop.
I've been there and done that.
Take it from experience. And if You allow the poop to mesh with its whatever bedding it is on and sit in compost for at least 6 months. Then the nitrogen levels will be balanced in a way where you can use the poop as composition, creating an overall great system of health for your gardening experience and chicken keeping.
And it's an excellent fertilizer for gardening or for your fruit trees or just for anything. It's once it's aged, it's got all the nutrients, vitamins, and minerals that your plants need. You know, don't put it early. I can't stress that enough.
Don't put it early. These 3 pictures that you see here show a tractor and run system. This run system is for broilers or meat birds. The tractor is a physical structure and the run is the space that the chickens are moved across. These chickens are moved twice a day to fresh grass. They eat from an on-demand feeder that you can see hanging in that bottom right picture there, and have access to lots of water that you can see in the blue bins in those pictures. This farmer raises broilers indoors for 3 weeks and outdoors until chickens are 8 to 10 weeks. At that time, between that 8 to 10 weeks of age, the chickens weigh between 3 to 5 pounds and are ready for slaughter. What you see in this picture are both female and male chickens. Let's talk feed. Feed is the term we use to describe a chicken's given diet. Right now, a really popular term that you'll hear is free range. Free range chickens have access to roam freely outdoors for at least 6 hours a day. The USDA's definition of outdoor access is, for lack of a better term, questionable. They allow in some cases this to include pop holes where the chicken does not have to have full body access to the outdoors. On both from a small scale chicken keeper's perspective and a large scale chicken keeper's perspective, like Mr. Joe's, we believe free range allows our chickens to have access to the outdoors to ensure they eat as natural as possible. This can result in 30 to 40% less feed that needs to be provided to your chickens. When a chicken is free range, they have access to grass, bugs, dirt, and other natural elements. Chicks and hens have different diets. Mr. Joe touched on this a little earlier. Their difference in diets is based on their need for protein. A chick needs anywhere between 22 to 26% protein in their daily diet, where a laying hen needs about 16 to 18%. After about 17 to 20 weeks, hens need more calcium. And as Mr. Joe stated, that's because calcium can only be stored in a chicken for just 1 day, but it is an imperative to the strength of the chicken's egg with how much calcium they intake. One of the best ways for our chicken. Go ahead.
When a chicken first starts laying, you'll find membranes that really have no yolk on. I mean, no shell on them. You'll find semi-solid eggs. It takes a while for that chamber that creates the shell to develop in the chicken. And that just lets you know how important it is for that bird to have the access to that calcium. You can actually see it as the chicken ages, the thickness and the quality of the shell that she's producing as she develops that chamber.
Consistent quality calcium and food is important for consistent egg production. One of the best ways for a chicken in our area to get calcium is through oyster shells, which we can find relatively in abundance here. If you are in a smaller area, demand feeders are a great way to ensure that your chickens have access to as much feed as they need. This allows the chickens to eat at their free will. Now, what about scraps? I don't know about any of you on this class, but one of the benefits that I was looking forward to with chickens is to not have to throw away so much of my own food and be able to give that to chickens. Mr. Joe, can you tell us what precautions we should consider when looking to feed our chickens kitchen scraps?
That's a dangerous habit to do with chickens. When you're first starting out, you really should look up everything that you give the chicken. There's some things that are deadly, some things will put them off laying, some things that'll throw the equilibrium out where they won't intake the calcium. So it's important that you know what scraps you give them, and don't give them too much of any one thing percentage-wise on your birds. This is something that takes time to learn. I generally, well, with this many chickens, it doesn't matter what I do. There are things that you can give, like pumpkin seeds. That's a natural dewormer. Just a seed deworms the chicken. So sunflower seeds, a lot of protein and oil. You'll learn as you go what scraps and what foods do what for your birds, and it's part of the joy of learning to be a husband to the chicken.
As Mr. Joe said, if you're considering giving your chicken your leftovers from your dinner or meals the day before, then look up what those scraps do for your chickens. Also keep in mind that just like humans, chickens may have allergies and food allergies. He mentioned that giving chickens something that they doesn't agree with them can change this egg cycle. So keep that in mind as you look to get rid of your chicken scraps. Molting and brooding. Mr. Joe, when does a chicken molt?
In this era, they generally will start molting late September, October of that first year and a half or so, and it lasts, depending on the weather, from a month to 5 months. And while they molt, their egg production drops drastically because they're spending their energy on keeping themselves warm and creating new feathers and just surviving through this period. And when they come back, they're beautiful, but when they're molting, they're kind of sorry looking.
And how long does that molting stage last?
It depends on the weather. I find it's anywhere from a month to 2 or 3 months. I mean, if we keep getting the weather swinging up and down, and they can't pull out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do when they're stuck in a molt like that, I'll increase my protein in my feed. I'll actually buy a little higher protein feed and make sure that they have, plenty access to the grass and the insects and bugs, so they're going to find the right things that help pull them out of it, allow access to the outside.
You can tell when a chicken is molting because she will begin to lose her feathers. She'll look spiddly. She'll have areas where she won't have feathers. But you can tell by the time of the year and be able to tell that is a molting and not necessarily disease. Mr. Joe, can you tell us about a broody hen? What does a broody hen look like?
They're kind of cute. Usually when you walk up to a hen that's in the nest box, she'll cluck at you and maybe, give you a bad look when you reach under and grab some eggs. But a brooding hen, she's gonna have a dozen eggs under or more because chickens are communal. They share nest boxes. And other chickens seem to know which nest box has a hen that wants to brood. So they'll sit there and their head kind of shrinks down and they'll be real puffy sitting on the nest. And that chicken's going to peck you. And that chicken is not going to like you taking those eggs. And if you want to raise some youngins, you can leave her alone. Leave her there. She'll raise off some youngins. But if you want to stop her I have a hospital coop where I'll put her in there for 3 or 4 days away from the other hens and get her out of that brooding cycle.
When a chicken becomes broody, it's usually, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the springtime, because the chicken will want to hatch an egg. Even if there's not a rooster in the hen house, she will still have an inkling to sit on an egg long enough to create a baby. How long would you say, Mr. Joe, that a broody period lasts for a hen?
Well, this is another thing that's pretty breed specific. Egg laying chickens that are been bred through time to be egg layers don't even generally go into brood. And then there's other chickens that are actually been bred for raising chickens, and they'll go into brood, and as long as they haven't successfully fulfilled their task, they'll want to remain brood. That's why I separate them. Get that out of their mind, you know. And when a chicken's brooding, she doesn't lay anymore. She's sitting on a bunch of eggs. She's not going to add to them because they want those eggs to hatch within a day or two. So they invite all the other chickens, say, yeah, y'all come put some eggs. I'm going to treat these bad boys. And after 2 or 3 days, that's it. Nobody else is allowed in that box. She'll peck anything that comes by. And that's no funny.
Can you tell us a little bit about the idea of breaking a hen that is broody?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Where I remove it from the system. I have another little small coop that I made. I'll put them in there for 3 days, a week, depending on how long it takes them to come out of that broody. You know, they've got everything they need. They just separate it from the flock, and it changes their design.
Is there a way to tell when a chicken is done, when she has finished her broody stage?
She doesn't sit on the nest all puffed up anymore. Back to like all the other ones were. I'm going to go in here and lay my eggs and get out. Did I ever tell you that there's egg song?
What was that?
Did I ever tell you that chickens have a song?
An
They have
egg
a song
song.
when they're ready to get in the box, and after they're done, they have a song. And once you know that song, well, you hear it, you say, chickens either get ready to lay or just lay.
Or just like,
So,
yes.
but look it up, chicken egg song, and there's some sites on the internet that actually have the right on. Some of them have, but if you hear it 2 or 3 times, you know which one it's like.
You know who it belongs to, individual chickens for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about,
So
oh, go ahead.
but you can tell through that song whether they want to do it. That's why I kind of thought that. Go ahead.
Get to know your ladies and their chicken egg laying songs. Let's talk about predators. Both of these pictures that you see here are dogs with chickens. One is my dog with chickens and one is Mr. Joe's dog with his chickens. These dogs act as security for the coop. Kinds of predators are prevalent whether you are in the country like Mr. Joe or in the city of New Orleans like I am. You may encounter possums, cats, birds of prey, crows, rodents, raccoons, skunks, minks, or foxes. These animals will
And coyotes.
and coyotes.
Yeah. There's coyotes in that city too. Believe me.
These animals may attack your chickens for food or their eggs for food, just depending on the animal. Mr. Joe, what predator have you had the most trouble with?
The most trouble I've had is through the birds of prey. They know how to sit on a pole, and they have a lot of patience. And they'll sit there and wait for that dog to go to sleep. Then they'll just swoop down, grab the chicken, pull the head off, and fly away. And it's so heartbreaking. You go out there and it's just headless chicken, 50 feet from your dog. It's nature, I understand, but it is what it is. Nature's tough, y'all.
Nature is tough and it can be gruesome. Here in the city,
Yeah.
the predator that I've had the most trouble with are crows. Not for attacking my chickens, but for coming to steal the eggs. Once a crow learns where the eggs are, it never forgets, and it is a smart, smart animal, and it will find a way to continually come and work together with other crows to steal eggs.
Now, you've got a problem there because one of your best friends, birds of prey, are crows. They do not like birds of prey. So if you run them off, they have a memory. They won't ever come back.
Mm-hmm.
What you need to do is make it so they can't get to the eggs unless those crows stay there.
Yeah, me and you are gonna have to talk about how to do that because these crows are something serious. All right, let's talk about law.
And I will take your eggs too.
Oh, that would be something to see. Let's talk laws. Here in Orleans Parish, there are several laws in place for people who want to own chickens in the city. One of the important things to remember is that your coop needs to be about 10 feet from any house or yard lines. How many chickens can you have? In Orleans Parish, you are allowed to have 12 chickens per property line. Under no circumstances in Orleans Parish are you allowed to own a rooster. What do you need to sell eggs? In general, you will need a business license and insurance to sell eggs. Let's talk laws. In Orleans Parish, there are generally there are laws that are in place for anyone who wants to own chickens in the city. One of the first things to remember is your coop. It needs to be 10 feet from any yard lines or houses in Orleans Parish. How many chickens can you have? You can legally have 12 chickens per property line in Orleans Parish. Under no circumstances can you have or own a rooster. There are, what do you need to sell eggs? Generally speaking, you need a business license and insurance to sell eggs. There are 3 listed places that it is important to look for all rules and regulations. The Louisiana Department of Agricultural and Forestry, Louisiana Egg Commission, and Louisiana state legislation can give you information about municipal laws and requirements for selling eggs or chickens as meat. Watching for disease. One of the best ways to watch for disease is to monitor the demeanor and the poop of your chickens. Mr. Joe, what do we look for in our chickens' demeanor?
Well, you get to know your chickens, and you want to watch that they're as active as they were before. They stay active, and a chicken, I know it's feathers, but you can see a shine to a chicken that's healthy, and a chicken that's not healthy is going to lose that shine. And the look on their face. I mean, if they're in pain, it's going to show. And also, their feces, it normally looks a certain way. As they get into different bugs or different feeds, it'll change some, but the general composition is the same. If it all turns one color, or if it's more liquidy, or you need to watch the feces and the animal itself closely. That's what helps you decide how to take care of these things, because catch it early is the best thing you can do.
Absolutely. Is there something that you may look for in a chicken's comb?
The general color and the way it stands. I mean, if only you have a chicken whose combs stand straight up and tall and plump and beautiful rosy red, and then one day they come out and all the combs are kind of falling over and they pale pink or something. You got issues. You know, it's time to put some outside of things in the box. Yeah, you can tell, like I said, the general look of your chicken, once you know it and you watch the changes,
as Mr. Joe was saying, you want to be spending time with your chickens so you know their demeanor. You're looking.
That's funny.
As Mr. Joe stated, you want to get to know your chickens. You want to be spending time with them regularly so that you understand their demeanor. You're looking for chickens to be active, to be spry, and you pay attention to their poop. You're going to see them poop every day. So if you're used to the poop being one way and then the next day or two it is a completely different set of poop, then that is your first indication that there may be disease going on. Mr. Joe, can you tell us about apple cider vinegar?
Apple cider vinegar is it's a natural thing to treat chickens with. I use apple cider vinegar with mother, which is the culture that they made the vinegar with. It helps restore the gut to a level that's steady. It also alters the pH, making the chicken's body uninhabitable for a lot of parasites and different bugs. It is the major treatment in a sustainable system that we have. You mix it in your water. I guess 1 gallon is 5, and you also, whenever you have vinegar water out, you need to have a storage of fresh water if they're left.
About how much apple cider vinegar do you use in, let's say, a gallon of water?
I use a quart.
Okay, a quart. Let's do a quart.
Yeah. That's 1 to 4, 1 to 5. Some of it. It's no exact ratio, especially with mother, because it just sits out during the day. That's why you can't keep it out for the day. That's so it out. Wash your container real well and start over again if they still need to be on. Which I normally, if I put them on that, I'll keep them on this week.
For how long? You said if you start them on apple cider vinegar, how long do you keep them on?
I normally keep them on for a week to make sure whatever effect it's having has good time to take hold. And if it's still in parasites, get all the parasites. If it's stabilizing the flora in your gut, it gives the time. Like if you're on antibiotics, you don't take antibiotics for 2 days until you feel the time. You take a course, and this is our antibiotics because we're sustainable. We don't want things unnatural in our product. We find that.
And you said in a quart you use about how much apple cider vinegar?
You would ask in a gallon, but if I was mixing 1 gallon, I would probably put a quart.
Oh, I understand.
So it'd be 1 quart. Normally I mix 1/5 and let it sit out. I like to use apple cider vinegar. You need to shake it real well when you put it out so you something the mother can with that.
Another way to watch for disease is to ensure that you have proper sanitation. You want to engage in hand cleaning anytime you come in contact with not only your chickens, but their bedding, their feed. You want to ensure that there is no cross farming. This means that any products, clothing, tools that you use on your farm do not get transferred to a separate farm. I wouldn't wear the boots that I wear to my farm and then go to Mr. Joe's farm and walk around his property. That is the surefire way to spread things that don't belong there. So you want to have clean clothes and boots. You want to ensure that the beds of your chickens stay clean. You want to mulch poop in free range areas frequently to ensure that that there is minimal chance for spreading of disease. Mr. Joe, will you tell us what joy you find in chicken keeping?
So again, I didn't catch what.
I said, will you finish out and tell us what joy you find in chicken keeping?
One, I like to be sustainable in all my food. So that the fulfillment of that is an important thing. Chickens are animals with personality, so you can enjoy your animal. That's also quite an enjoyment. And the idea that you have this animal and it's under your care, your tutelage, guide, is it's rewarding to know that when it's thriving and happy, it's because.
Hello?
Oh, did you hear that?
No, that last part cut out. Could you say it again?
The part where I said where it's rewarding, know that it's chicken is thriving and happy because of you.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good. It does feel good to look out there, lots of healthy animals that are happy, really enjoying their life. Know that you're responsible.
And this last picture here that I'm sharing is a picture of my oldest child holding one of our chickens. She gets a close relationship and understands these chickens' personalities probably better than I do, and I tend to them daily. I agree with Mr. Joe that it is rewarding to not only see happiness in animals that you're creating, but to also reap the benefits of their happy lives by eating fresh eggs daily or happy, healthy meat if you choose to eat chicken.
And it's not raised unnaturally with products and things that you wouldn't raise in a sustainable system. And it's something that you and I have never talked about. If a person goes and studies this vitamin K2 is, it just tells your body where to put that. In America, we have a terrible problem with calcium oxidation and other things. And none of our food sources, not the food source that take care of that is vitamin K2. And if the chicken doesn't have the grass and sunlight, it's not it's getting like a cow. She's not out in the grass and sunlight. She's not going to put it in her nest. So where do we get K2 from in our industrial system?
You can definitely tell the difference in chickens, both that you eat and eggs that you've had from a chicken that's not necessarily living in the best living condition.
And so can your body.
And so can your body. Thank you for coming to Intro to Chicken Keeping, and please look out for a follow-up survey.